Sabrina 2000s comic, issue 99. There's no reason for there to be this much dialogue. So Sabrina and her friends go talk to the elemental spirits, who talk to them way too much, telling them what to do next. You'd think omnipotent witches wouldn't need to get the help of elemental spirits, who by nature would only be able to use elemental spells, so obviously they would be a lot weaker than them. And Sabrina can just summon Zephyrus whenever she wants. Why does this padding have to happen instead? There's no reason to take it seriously, because I know Sabrina could just warp the bad guy to her, or warp to him, and destroy him instantly. And the ability to summon butlers, so just summon 1 billion of them to gang up on him. Zelda wastes time with Salem and wants to go to Barth's meeting. The council is unlikable and gullible, talking too much as if I'm expected to care one bit about any of these new characters with no likability, who didn't know what a BCR was. There's no way that kids would read every bit of dialogue in this comic. You know it's bad when you're better off just reading the end of a scene. I don't care if they decided to get to that point, because they're all awful. Hilda volunteers to guard the queen. This scene was worthless. Shinji's brother bores me by telling the truth that we already know to Barth and his army. Meanwhile, the heroes very slowly find the stuff they need, talking too much all the while. Why didn't they just warp all the stuff they needed to them right away? They all use elemental magic together and pass the test and bring the elemental stuff. And they're expected to have mastered all of the elements, ripping off Avatar completely, out of nowhere. I mean, why would they need to use more than one spell to beat anyone? If he's supposed to be immune to all spells, if they're immune to magic directly, then you could just zap up chairs to throw at him. You wouldn't even need to use elemental magic. Eventually, Sabrina's army shows up. I just said Sabrina's army. I'm definitely ignoring the later Sabrina comics if it's already reached the point of insanity by the manga. And Sabrina shows the people the dead mana tree leaf. Why don't people assume it's just a regular tree leaf? Hemlock's told off because she expected Hilda's aunt to destroy it for her. The bad guy blasts Shinji, and Hemlock makes it clear that she still cares about him. Why would Sabrina not be able to heal Shinji? She could use magic to surround him with boulders from all sides, including above, and win. Anyone would be able to heal him with witchcraft, so it wouldn't matter if she used lethal blows. Eventually, the bad guy reveals that the reason Sabrina is so powerful is that he gave her a slice of his power. Is he telling the truth? I actually wondered even before this point if the reason Sabrina was so powerful was that she had the power of more than one witch in her. But the bad guy could be lying. He somehow expects me to believe that her wands won't affect him, then summon objects to throw at him. Why wouldn't she hand over the leaf? She already showed it to people. There's no reason it'd have power still. I guess it does, since he wants it. Sabrina 2000s comic, issue 100. It was obvious all along that he wasn't gonna heal Shinji. She was just desperate because somehow all of these witches couldn't heal him alone and didn't combine their powers. Sabrina shields herself from fire with air. I guess the story is gonna somehow stretch the battle to last the whole issue, even though she should be able to just zap up stuff to throw at him. Hemlock turns on him and gets hurt. Sure is a shame that the heroes aren't attacking the bad guy while he's wasting time talking. Go figure, he never intended to make Hemlock his queen anyways. He's not even trying to hide it from the council anymore, which makes sense because he yelled at her for not destroying the evidence. Sabrina stupidly puts Shinji on a carpet to get him somewhere safe instead of simply warping him to a hospital. It does save on magic to use a flying carpet, but she could just point and heal him. She says to call the rest of the renegade blades. Why the hell didn't she have them with her in the first place? You'd think they would be flying with her on flying carpets. She could zap up more if she doesn't have enough. You'd think they'd all summon stuff to throw at the bad guy at once. I mean, he could teleport all the way, but not if they do it fast enough. Why does she ever confront him with barely anyone with her? The Queen and Hilda talk to the council members, and Hilda uses magic to protect herself from the awful characters with a force field. The Queen reveals the truth from long ago to them. And thankfully, The council members agree to follow them and help the four blades. The flying carpets are hard to hit accurately, and the bad guys release some monsters. If the bad guy just froze time, he wouldn't have any trouble hitting the flying carpets. So obviously the bad guy would just win instantly if he was using his brain. The heroes put on animal masks. Then Shinji gets told by Hemlock that the bad guy forces you to fall in love with him, and then places the mark on someone's forehead to control them. Celeste did nothing but backtalk him the whole time, so it didn't seem like she was in love with him. And even she questioned him. Galena and her stepsister the Queen have the mark as well. She was always jealous of Celeste for getting all of her mom's attention, which is why she agreed to try to overthrow the Queen. Shinji forgives her and says, go figure, that he always loved Sabrina instead of her, which is confusing for him to say because he's been acting like he's more loyal to Hemlock, so why didn't he just break up with Hemlock immediately? The whole reason Sabrina broke up with him is that she didn't need a magical boyfriend and she was over being a witch. There was really no reason for them to not get back together as soon as she wanted to return to the Four Blades. Like, how did he not realize he always loved Sabrina instead of her? Of course he loved her, that's why he was defending her so much. Hemlock fortunately explains that all of the bad guy's power lies in the amulet at his throat. It kind of makes sense. Witches have a magic battery that needs to be recharged in the Great Cauldron in the 70s style comics. So that's where his magic battery is. It's just more confusing that it's at the exterior where it's a lot easier to target. He could have used magic to put it inside of him so no one would be able to target it, because he'd have an invincibility spell on his skin. So all they have to do is remove it. But whoever breaks it would be caught directly in the magical fissure and killed, because God forbid they just teleport it away from him. I guess that's part of the whole he's immune to magic being used directly on him thing. So predictably, Shinji decides to do it because he's already hurt anyways. This story is nothing but idiot balls. There's no reason a witch couldn't just point and teleport or telekinetically move the amulet away from him. It's so obvious that if they can freeze time, they would just break the amulet in frozen time and then get out of the way and unfreeze time. It takes too long with Sabrina telling the truth and being disbelieved, and eventually, the Queen fesses up. Sabrina says he killed Tree. What kind of dialogue is that? This is a story we're supposed to take completely seriously. There's no excuse for not only nothing but idiot balls, but also dialogue like this. So Sabrina uses magic to summon the wind spirit of the floating island, and get him to bring the withered mana tree up to everyone. I guess he has more magic than her, so that's why she can't just do that herself. She knew to do this because she knows the spirit likes her. Gee, too bad she didn't think to do this a lot earlier, but that was easy. He says he just wants to absorb all of the magic so that it can take over the mortal realm. I thought he wanted to take over the magic realm. Why is he talking as if he only wants to rule Earth? So he changed his mind. Why is he talking as if this means he has bigger ambitions than the magic realm, when the magic realm would have more people in it than Earth by far? And then he destroys the mana tree, which wouldn't have happened if anyone thought to just use magic on him instead of letting him talk at all. Even if he's immune to magic somehow, you'd think a force field could be created around him, but he'd just get rid of it. And Sabrina could have zapped up a fake withering mana tree. Also, there's no reason for this to happen because Shinji would have simply been warped in front of him. There's no reason at all that Hemlock would just walk while carrying him. Can't she fly? Why would she need to turn to a bat to fly? Hemlock decides to jump on the bad guy and steal the amulet. We clearly didn't need 2 heroic sacrifices. Maybe Shinji won't die, so it'll only be 1. At least Hemlock tries to redeem herself this way. Other than her being a traitor, that's the only thing memorable about her character. But it was just a stupid sacrifice, because witches can freeze time and use telekinesis. You'd think Landra could just summon vines to restrain him again because she did that to Sabrina effortlessly. It turns out that the bad guy was Kit the Forest Spirit all along, so he wasn't lying about being that sprite. Sabrina retrieved his lost amulet in the woods, so it really wasn't just a prize from a cereal box. And by touching it, some of its power stolen from the mana tree transferred to Sabrina, which is why she was so powerful. Why would it transfer to Sabrina when he wouldn't want that? How in the world was he able to get away? Sabrina could have just trapped him in a force field long before he'd jump into a portal without his powers. The entire reason she was able to do all those amazing things is because somehow the bad guy didn't just warp her to him because he was too lazy to do it. Because he assumed she wasn't a threat to him anyways. It's not believable because eventually he found out she was planning against him and the Queen. I have to assume that the Soul Stone can only be used on one person, and then it becomes non-functional. So that's why he didn't just use that on every single witch he saw, instead of even bothering with the mana tree. Hilda says he won't be able to hide for long, instead of just warping him back to her right away. Instead they waste time angsting. Sabrina gets handed the amulet and is told she should be the next queen. She says that this doesn't belong to her. It belongs to everyone in the magic realm. She buries the amulet, and she and her friends use magic to make a new mana tree grow here, in the plaza, where everyone would be able to enjoy it and nurture it. At least if it's in public, it'll be a lot harder for some bad guy to secretly sneak over to it and siphon from it, because way more eyes could be on it at any given time. And she should say they should post guards or cameras to supervise it when no one's looking at it. I understand why it used to be hidden away from people to try to protect it better. But that was a dumb idea if everyone thinks this is a better idea. Sabrina tells Shinji she loves them and kisses him. Harvey and Sabrina have always been the fan-preferred couple. So it's so weird to do this, to have them be the official couple that eventually gets together. And I'm told that the next 4 entire issues are going to be about the adventures of young Salem. But it's written by a dumb writer who completely underestimates how powerful witches are. And who has the stories last way too long because it's one story per issue, making it boring and frustrating. I don't want to read it, because I know I'm gonna hate it. It doesn't have Sabrina in it. It's not focused on being comedic. I guess Salem runs around causing trouble. I never liked that in the first place. It's just pointless and has nothing to do with anything. Probably being another series of stories that would never happen because the witch didn't think to use magic so that he wouldn't have to do anything he did in the comics. Like, if the stories are about Salem trying to get a MacGuffin, why didn't he just use magic to warp the MacGuffin to him? It's so weird that the comic doesn't get Harvey's memories restored. So this story was about Sabrina having the final battle with Vosblink. It's just so obvious how easily Vosblink could be defeated. I assume he can't be affected by magic directly, but that's why he just summoned objects or fire to throw at him, and have them completely surrounding him, and fling them at him so fast that he wouldn't get a chance to teleport away. It wouldn't be hard. It is believable that she wouldn't want to kill anybody, but how does she expect to beat him in a fight if she's holding back? We're never told how he even found the soul stone that stole her powers in the first place. Oh, anyone could just walk around to the other realm and trip on a soul stone. That's literally how I'm imagining that he found it. Why wouldn't any of the witches spying on witches that would have to be doing so to enforce the laws have caught Vosblink in anything that he was doing? Eventually, Hemlock is the one who defeats him, and not the main character, because apparently it requires a heroic sacrifice getting caught in the blast if you attack his amulet, which is the only way to defeat him. You would think that a witch would just freeze time so that you could just break the amulet and then get out of the way before it would blast someone. I don't understand why it had to end with Vosblink jumping into a portal and surviving. Especially since it could have easily not had him survive, because you would think that a witch would just warp him to them, or cast a spell to home in on his location and warp to him. Why did he destroy the mana tree? But Sabrina can just get a new mana tree planted. So that was it? You'd think that either Sabrina or Vosblink would think to just freeze time. Instead, they're just idiots. You think all the witches against Vosblink would be able to just summon objects around him and just throw them at him before he'd get the chance to portal away from them. Not to mention the whole drama around Shinji getting hurt was forced because witches could just heal him instantly.